Shimona look professional in those glasses, man. When did you start to wear glasses? Some nice tree.
I'm here wondering, what did I put myself into?
What? Well, you have a story, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody have a story. Everybody have some kind of experience when they come to this country. Almost time to start. Finally arrived, Alfred.
There you go. It's not Alfred, this is brother. We all look alike.
Okay, bro. In line with Black History, right?
Oh yeah. So if you need to use the internet, you could type up there if you want to. Hey, right. I don't know if you have to use the internet while you're in here. Okay, that's good. So this is like one screen, so. You mute now? You're not muted. So they can hear you. That's okay. That's right there. So I don't know if you. Yeah, I like this screen. That's good. Hi, Shimona.
Hi, Alfred.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good.
Okay, Elder Udine, we are live and ready to go whenever you are ready.
Right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening as we continue our discussion on the Canadian experience. The discussion we're about to have this evening is about the journey of Black immigrants living in Canada. We are going to talk we're going to talk about their challenges and their successes as well. And I'm really delighted that we are having this discussion. And also for those of you who are joining us this evening, Again, I just want to say welcome. It's good to have you. So often, when we talk about Black history, the first thing that comes to mind is about 400 years of slavery. And while that may be part of our history, that is not the whole story. It's about knowing the enormous contributions that Black people have made and continue to make in our society. It is also about their triumphs, their successes, and their achievements. And so this evening, what we are going to do, we are going to have two participants who will be sharing their stories with us. But before I get into introducing the panelists and also the presenters, let's pause to invite God's presence. Let's pray. Gracious Father, we praise you and thank you for who you are. You are a God of love, you are a God of compassion, and you are a God of all because you made us all. We thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to have this virtual discussion about Black History Month, who we are, our past and our present, and what the future means for us. As we engage in this dialogue, dear Father, we ask that you would help us to realize that we are all your children, and as such, we are all equal in your sight. So, Lord, give us open minds as we enter into this discussion, and help that this discussion will help us to build bridges, not walls, so that we all can live together and in harmony, and that such things as racism and discrimination, Lord, will be a thing of the past. So continue to be with us and bless us as we begin our meeting. We ask this in your name. Amen. Okay, so again, I want to say welcome everyone. And so we have a panel discussion. And firstly, let me first introduce the presenters. We have two presenters this evening, Shimona Williams and also Pastor Herlock. And then we have our panelists with us. We have Katian Charles, Joan Twine, Gemma Thompson, Pastor Anderson, and we have Shimona Williams. Well, I introduced Shimona already. So am I missing anyone? I think I've got them all. And
yeah, you've got us all.
yes. Okay.
You forgot Alfred.
Alfred Knight.
Oh, how did I? Sorry about that. And so Alfred Knight. Right. So without much ado, I will just want to start because I'm sure we have lots to cover this evening. So I will begin with Shimona Williams. Shimona is going to tell her story, and just a sentence or two about Shimona. Shimona comes from the beautiful island of St. Vincent. She came to Canada, it's in 1999. And Shimona is the eldest of 5 children. And so we are happy to have Shimona. So Shimona, I'll now turn it over to you. And I just want to note a couple of things. You have 20 minutes in terms of doing your presentation, after which we are going to have 10 minutes in which the virtual audience through the chat can ask questions. And also we will have panel members to ask questions as well. And the focus of this evening is to talk for main areas that we are looking at. We are looking at your arrival, the struggles that you may have had, your integration, and where you are right now. So with that, I turn it over to you, Shimona.
Thank you, Elder Francois. Good evening, everyone. And thank you all so much for being a part of the Shiloh's Black History Month program this evening. Thank you all for being here. Like Elder Francois mentioned before, my name is Shimona Williams, and I hail from the beautiful, very beautiful island of St. Vincent. I arrived in Canada 22 years ago, almost. This coming July would be 22 years exactly since I came to this country. I arrived here in July 7th, the 7th of July, 1999. On that day, I remember clearly, it's a day I can never forget. It was Carnival Tuesday. It was Carnival Tuesday on the day that I left home. That same week, I graduated high school. So I came here about 5 days after I finished high school. I remember in high school, in Form 5 at that time, I'm not sure if they still say form now, but in those times it was forms in high school. I was in Form 5 and I remember I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to finish high school because I was tired of the studying and everything. And then I got the news that I was going to Canada. Whew, I was happy, but I was a little bit disappointed as well because I wanted to enjoy life out of high school before I even go anywhere. Because for me, in those times, I didn't really have a lot of fun per se. It was mostly going to school, going to church, going home, school, church, going home. So I just wanted time to, enjoy some time like I saw all my friends was doing at the time, but that didn't happen. So that time came for me to come to Canada. I arrived here and my dad actually, he was the one that brought me here. He had migrated here this January of the same month, the same year. And he and his wife, they brought me here the July after I finished high school. However, it's really hard for me to talk about this because the life that I was expecting when I came here, it didn't really go that way. It did not go that way at all. It was much more difficult. I had a lot of struggles. And that was the later part of July. And I remembered when I came here, actually I came with one of my cousins, she's a teacher. And I think she had came for a month actually. So she went back and then I was here all on my own, didn't really know anyone. At the time I knew that I have other relatives here, cousins and maybe some aunts, but I didn't really have a connection with them. So I didn't know it. I didn't know anything. So it was pretty much me. And I had a really rough time where I was staying. It was not nice at all. Not too long after I came here, maybe about a month, I believe it was the August, I started working. I was 17. I was just 17 at that time. Remember, I had just finished high school and I was told that I had to go and work because no one lives on the street in Canada. So once you're here, you have to pay rent and you have to buy food and all those things. So I'm like, wow, pay rent? I've never paid rent in my life before. I've never worked, never even earned a living before. Now, hey, I had to go out and work. And the very first job I got was at a place called Summer Fresh. It still exists today. I see ads of them. They sell different salads and things like that. And it's in Pine Valley. It's at Pine Valley and Steeles. I remember those times. They took me there few times. And then after that, I had to learn the way all by myself. So I would have to get to work like say 7 in the morning, and I'm living in Scarborough. That's in Scarborough at that time. And I had to go all the way to Pine Valley and Steeles. That's a journey. And that's like paying double fare at those times. Like new me in Canada. Sometimes I remember traveling on the 95 bus to get to work. And then I get to York Mill Station, and then I have to wait there. And that York Mill Station, for some reason, it's always cold. I used to dread going into York Mill Station to wait for the other bus, the 165, that would take me to Pine Valley. And then when I get to Pine Valley, then I had to wait for I think it was the York Region bus. At that time, I didn't even know what type of bus. I just knew when I got there, I had to take that bus to get to work. And oh my gosh, I think that's one of the worst jobs that I ever had, because it was working in a freezer. It's in a freezer because it's solid, it's food and everything. It's cold. We had to wear jackets, and oh my gosh, oh boy, it was not easy. So I worked there for a few months, and then I stopped. Things changed at home. Things got really bad at home, and I left, and I had to go somewhere else. And then anyway, fast forward 2003, I got a job at a beauty supply. I ended up managing that beauty supply. I became the manager there. I worked there for 2 years, up until 2005. And then after that, it was like always working in the factories, or at one point I was doing house cleaning. And in those days, I remember it was only like $60 working for a particular group of people. And it wasn't much. And it wasn't every day either, but I had to pay my rent and I had to buy food. So it was really, really rough. Sometimes I didn't have my rent to pay at the time. I remember that the landlord would come knocking sometimes and I'll be in the house because I don't have the rent. But that's just how it was in those times. And I remember in 2005, my mom, because I was struggling so much, like it was really, really difficult. It was tough. I was going through a lot. And after calling my mom all the time and telling her what I was going through, she was back home in St. Vincent and she was worried because she knew that I didn't really have it. I was here on my own. Never mind the cousins, they had their own worries to deal with too, right? So my mom, sometimes I call her and I'm talking to her and she's crying because, I'm the first child, and now I'm all the way so far away from her and she couldn't help me. She couldn't do anything for me. And I got the opportunity to bring her here. Somebody that I met, they helped me purchase a plane ticket and they brought her here. Oh my gosh, that was the happiest time of my life. My mom was here with me, and I will tell you, my mom has 6 children. It's 6 of us and I'm the eldest. My last brother, I don't know him because he was born the year after I came here. He was born in 2000. So I've never met him, only spoken to him on the phone. And after she came here in 2005, my life started to take a different turn. Like things started to work out for me because she was there. My mom is a very strong woman, She was there, she had my back, she was very supportive, encouraging and everything. And I think everything that I was going through, she knew about it. And she, I was listening to her, but sometimes I wouldn't listen. I still wanted to do my own thing sometimes, but most of the times I would listen to her. We had a really, really good relationship. And I remember in those times, by then I was in my 20s. I was in my early 20s, and I started I started going about doing my own thing. I remember I started working at this company called Kisco Products that make freezies. I worked there after I left the beauty supply. I went there. In those days, you could leave one job today and get another one tomorrow. So getting a job was not a problem. So while I was at Kisco working, I started to make a lot of friends. I had a lot of friends, and we would go out, would have fun, come home. Then there was nothing else for me to do pretty much. And then sometime in 2008, I started, I don't know where it was, but someone gave me some information. At that time, I started to think of, I'm tired of this housekeeping. I am tired of this factory. I really don't want to. I really, really started to hate working for people. I started to hate it with a passion because I remember working in the industrial sector, and there would always be the blacks over here and a bit of white scattered around, and there were the other cultures. And it was like, even though you're a good worker, and I was always a good worker, like no matter where I work, I was always a good worker. And there was always something, like some reporting would always take place, and then before you know it, you're out of a job, and that's it. You have to start hunting for another job again. But in 2008, somebody gave me some information, and I took it up and I called. Remind you, back then there were no cell phones. Like in the earlier times, there were no cell phones. So I had to go to I'll give you a story. One time I was going to the laundromat to do my laundry. That was at Markham and Ellesmere. I had all my clothes, all my good clothes. I had just recently came into a possession of some really nice clothes, and I was going to the laundromat. And I decided, while waiting for the bus, I decided to go across the street on the other side and use the payphone. By the time I turned around, I looked across the street, my clothes were gone. My clothes were gone. And that was it. I lost all my clothes. I don't know how I was gonna go back home and say that I lost my clothes because I was going to the laundromat. All my clothes disappeared. So I started going to, in 2008, I started taking some classes at Seneca. At Seneca, I started taking some, actually, no, it wasn't at Seneca first. It was at an institution, a program offered by TDSB. They were having some math and English classes, and I registered. And when I did the intake, I was like at the highest level. So I started like at a really high level. I didn't really stay there too long. They said, I don't need to be there. That's not for me. So they gave us some other information regarding colleges that we can go to do upgrading. Seneca was one of them, Centennial. I chose Seneca at the time. Yeah, I chose Seneca. And I went to Seneca. I started doing some upgrading, math, English, science, and I was doing really well there, but then something happened. I don't remember what it was, and I had to take a break. But while I was on the break, I always wanted to go back to school, and I was still, it was still difficult because after the World Trade Center incident took place, things really, really changed. Like it was never the same after the World Trade Center incident took place. And I remember after the World Trade Center, I'm just back in going back a bit here. After the World Trade Center, I remember being here, having no status, which is not even what I was expecting when I came here. It was really hard. I remember I was living with a roommate at one time, and we were scared to go outside because people were like words were going around saying, oh, the police are out there picking up people on the street. And when you don't have status in this country, it's like you're always looking over your shoulder. So we're scared to go outside. We don't even want to leave the house to go to work because we're scared that something is going to happen. Anyway, one day I said, you know what? I'm going to go outside. I can't do this. So I went out and I did what I had to do. Nothing ever happened. And from there, it was always working in the factory. It's like whatever they pay you, that's it. Like you couldn't talk about it. Whatever happened, you pretty much got to keep mum because, you really don't have the right to be working since you don't have the correct documents to be working. So it's like, it was really, really tough. And once I remember working at some places, like once they realized that your status, they would take advantage. They would take advantage of you, like totally take advantage of you. With the cleaning, they would want you to do like so many things, and then what they were offering as payment was like pretty much nothing, because from that you have to pay rent, buy food, and do everything else. So it really wasn't working out. Back then, food wasn't really expensive like it is today. It was way cheaper. But I was the type of person that any opportunity that I got to do something, I always take it. I was never a no person. Like anything comes my way, once I know I'm capable of doing it, I will always take it because I knew what my situation was. So anyway, I started, as time went by, in 2011, I got pregnant with Vanaya, my first daughter. And that's when things really, really changed for me. Things really changed then. I said to myself, I've been here by then it was about 13, it was a good number of years since I've been here by that time. And I said, you know what? I need to do something, because when it was just me, it was just me. I can still get around and do what I do. But now I'm having a child and I need to do what I need to do for my child. And then I applied. I found a lawyer. I applied. I sent my information in, and then I was just waited. And while I was waiting, I started going to college. I went to a community college, and that's when I earned my first diploma here. It was for medical administration, and I was happy. I passed the top of my class with high honors. I have all my certificates to show. I'm very proud because I worked hard. And after I did that, I worked for a bit at a family physician center here in Scarborough, somewhere there. And then after I did that for a while, and then I remembered at that point in time, I was just thinking school. I have to, because I at that time, I'm thinking, if I ever get my documents in this country, nobody's host is going to see me again to be cleaning. I was never going to enter another factory to work. And I made that promise to myself. So at that time, I said, that is it. And after I finished that, I got the job. And I said, you know what? I can do better than this. And then I went back to Seneca, finished my upgrading there. And then I started going to, there were always laps. Each time I went to do my upgrading, something would happen, and then I would have to take a break. But then anyway, I ended up finishing. Then I finally got my status a couple years after I applied. And then I went back to school again, and then I got another diploma for personal support worker. Before personal support worker, I did healthcare aid, and that's when I was pregnant with my second daughter. I was home, and because I didn't want like my mind to get rusty. So because all I'm thinking, I have children now, and I don't want them to have to go through what I went through when I came to this country. It was really difficult. So I was trying my best to make a future for them. And I didn't want to like stay down here and say, you know what, I get this and this is enough. That wasn't me. So while I was pregnant with her, I was home. There wasn't much I can do. I went online and I registered in a course. I got another diploma again for another program. And then after that, then I went to Centennial. I got my certificate for personal support worker. So when I see where I came from to where I am today, I came a long way. It took me a very, very long time to get to where I'm right now, but I am thankful, I am proud, I'm happy. And I can say that because no one did it for me. By God's grace, I stepped out and I had to do all of it by myself. And my mom was there with me the entire time.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing. And so before we go to the panel, I don't know if there are any questions through the chat. Pastor Anderson.
Okay, thank you, Elder Udine. I'm looking here online and I don't see any questions here except for the statement of that it is good that Shimona determined within herself that she was going to have a good quality of life. So I just want to say thank you, Shimona, for your transparency in the retelling of your story. And I think that for those that are watching now and those that will watch after, they will be inspired because there's so many different things that happen within the Canadian experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not everyone comes to this country and finds the land filled with milk and honey. There are different diverse experiences that are all a part of the Canadian experience. I don't want to hog the time, so I'll wait until Elder Udine, you field a few of the questions that you have there prepared, and then maybe if there's time, I'll come in on the edge of this first panelist. Lots of questions to ask.
All right. So I just want to throw it out to the panel. Any questions from the panel?
Okay, I would like to ask Shimona, sorry. Looking back now from the different experiences you have had, what would you have changed?
The one thing that I would change when I look back from where I am right now, and it's an encouragement that I would give to others. If you're not here and you're just arriving in this country, take advantage of any opportunity that comes your way, any opportunity. Doesn't matter how small you are, because one opportunity can take you into bigger things. And that's what happened to me. And another thing that I would have changed if I were to go back was to seek status, like immediately. The longer you wait, the harder, the more difficult it's going to be. Sometimes I look at people and they arrive here this year and a few months they're talking about getting status. And I'm like, wow, you just came here. Yeah. Okay, but it's a good thing. The earlier you start, the better, and the better chances you're going to have at succeeding in this country.
One more question. In the various jobs that you have had, Did you encounter any racism?
All the time.
Can you give us one experience that
All
you
the
had?
time. I remembered one time, and it wasn't always among different races. It was among my own race, our own race. Because once people see that you're good at something, they want to take your place, they will do that. They will do whatever they can to bring you down.
Okay, thank you.
Shimona, I have to say I really admire your strength, and I like the way you take advantage of opportunities that are open to you, especially educational opportunities. Where do you see yourself going from here?
Going from here right now, well, currently I'm in the process of getting my nursing diploma. Hopefully, if all goes well, by the end of this year or early next year, I'll be done. And that is my dream. I've always thought of being a nurse. And when I started the medical administration, that was like the most basic that I could have done, but I've always stepped up from there because I knew that is not what I wanted. So I've always been stepping up. And right now I'm at that point where I can see my future drop right there. It's just right there.
I must say that's really admirable, and I really wish you success in all your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Shimona, you didn't talk much about home after you came here. Did you ever go back? Do you miss the life at home, or that's behind you?
I do miss it at times, but and I've never traveled back. Each time I've wanted to go back, there's always something that came up. Like last year, I was planning to go and take my children, but that didn't happen because of COVID. So I haven't traveled back, but I do think of home often, and I long to go home. I long to go home. My siblings are there. I mean, my both parents are here, and I have two siblings here as well, but my other siblings, especially for my last brother that I've never met before, they are longing to see me and my children because they see them, you know, online pretty much all the time, and they would love to see them. But the life that I had back home, it was really good. I enjoyed life back home. It would be really great going back there again. But most of my life I've lived in Canada, so there's not really much that I miss back home. Because all of my life, most of it, I've been here. I came here at 17. So it's almost 22 years now. So no, I don't really miss it that much.
I have a question.
Sorry, go ahead, Kathy Ann, you first.
Oh, thank you, Pastor Anderson. Shimona, I just want to commend you for such great courage and strength that you have. And as you spoke, I saw a lot of myself in you and in some of your experiences, because I did come to Canada in 1999 as well. And I remember back then it was quite a struggle. I mean, it was easy to come. I don't know if it was the same for St. Vincent. There was no visa at the time, right?
Yeah.
And at the time, I remember a lot of my friends were traveling right after high school. A visa wasn't required. So you can, you come up to Canada, meet family, and you're thinking, oh yeah, you can go to school, you can pursue your dreams. And when you come here, it's a different story. So the struggle is real. And when you said your mom came, I was like, wow, that's awesome to have your mother here with you, like a partner, a pillar of strength. That was great. That was such a blessing, that your mom would have, been able to join you here. So my question, apart from your mom being such a great strength for you, Were you a part of any group, like a church group at the time? Did you draw your strength from any social groups or community groups, including church? How was your relationship with God as you went through that process?
Yes, I did. I remembered in that's a long time ago, but I think it was in early 2000. I remembered I was at home at where I was living. There was a little boy, and my stepmom was his aunt or godmother or something, and he used to give a lot of trouble. And this is the history that I have with Sister Ellis, who passed a few years ago. And it was a Sabbath morning, and I remember I was in my room and I heard the lady called on the phone, and I overheard the conversation of her saying, "I'm going to church." And I'm like, "Church?" And at that time, when I heard the word church and it was a Sabbath day, it just sparked something. And I'm like, wow, so maybe I don't know what I did, but for some reason, I got in contact with the lady. I don't even remember how, but I got in contact with her and she said, yes, you can come to church with me. And that's how I started going to Shiloh. At Gage. Shiloh was at Gage at that time, and that's when I would go to her. She would pick me up on Sabbath morning. It's funny because at that time, I remembered I had one dress, and that's all the church clothes I had. And it's funny now that I look back at it. So some Sabbaths when she would come to pick me up, I would tell her I'm not going because I don't want to be wearing the same dress all the time going to church. So I would refuse to go. But I started going there with Sister Ellis, and then she was with me. She was very encouraging. That she would take me home for lunch and things like that after church. And then Richard and Julie from they're in Ajax now, the Richard and Julie Jules. Yeah, they took me over from there. So I was sort of like passed down. And because they were the ones who were there for me, like keeping me and my interest in the church. They were always there. So after Richard and Julie, then it was Sister LaDonna who took me up again in 2008. And that's a lot of years in between there, 2008. And I remember Sister LaDonna, she was always behind me. Are you coming to church tomorrow? Sometimes I remember I would like just totally ignore her because I wasn't really interested. And I remembered in 2008, exactly, I was living in Pickering, and she called me and she said, I'm coming to pick you up. We're having an evangelistic series. At that time, Charlotte just moved to where we are right now. And I said, okay. And I went, and that was it. That was it. I was like hooked. Pastor Dotton, that crusade back in 2008 at Shiloh, he preached a message one night, and that message got me. And the pig said, pull the trigger. That message got me, and I started to cry, and I remembered my past and everything that I was going through at the time, and I said, this is it. And I was staked at Shiloh up until this day. And then after I became a member of Shiloh, then I started the Pathfinders, and I've been with Pathfinders from since then. So it's 13 years now since I've been with the Pathfinder ministry at Shiloh, which I enjoy. And pretty much about the same number of years I've been in Shiloh. And I've met some really good people in Shiloh who have kept me grounded over the years. One of them is Sister LaDonna, and she has been there for me too. And Sister Ellis, like I said before, and there are others as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We are going to move on to the second presenter, Pastor Hurlock. But just one word, as I've been listening to the story, and I've been listening to other stories over the past 2 weeks, and one word that is stuck in my mind, the word is resilience. But let Pastor Herlock do his presentation, and then when we come back to wrap up, I'll come back to that. So the time is yours now, Pastor Herlock.
Okay, good evening, and thank you for the privilege. I would imagine the first question is what about or is about our arrival, and the second one was what? I have
the struggles.
Struggles. Okay, struggles. All right. So I wanted to. The time I came, I wanted to leave because of opportunity. And I think most of us are here from the Caribbean, especially because where we are from is so beautiful, so nice, so relaxing, but short of opportunity for many. And I was one. Upon my arrival, it was kind of strange because I thought I wouldn't have gotten through. I came as a landed immigrant, by the way. But when I came to the airport, I thought they would have turned me back, preacher, because I took a little package for my aunt from someone. Somebody gave it to deliver. So if anyone who is listening, if you're traveling at any time and anyone gave you a package, make sure you know what's in that package. Now, we were taught differently, Pastor, that when somebody gives you something, don't you look, take it the way it is. No, 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 no. Because when I came to the airport back then, and the examiner, he loved me first sight. He called me Blue. He said, Blue, you're in Canada. I said, yeah. He said, all right, let me see your bag. And when they opened my bag, it was a package in there. And there were some little things in there. And he took it out and he smelled it. He said, Blue, you are in trouble. So he didn't know what it was. So he went for another gentleman from the Caribbean, from the West Indies. And he came and he smelled it too. My heart was beating and pounding, but finally it was what is called seriously. So they thought it was something else, as you know what it is. It's called the weed. So I wasn't coming in with it. So that was my bad experience at the airport. Upon arrival, I have family members, but it was difficult, as you know. First of all, information in this country was very rare. Nobody teach you anything. Nobody tell you your rights. And so for opportunity, it was kind of weak for us. I didn't know that you could have gotten loan and grant. We were not told that. We had nobody. And you know, Shimona said something that is unfortunate among us, that we are not as helpful as we are to. I don't know for to each other as we are to. So, but education was key to those fathers and mothers. It was the melting pot experience when we were just coming. So education was key. To succeed was key. Staying at home and not doing anything wasn't, in our book at all. We had to make snow cone with ice. We have to go out there. We have to dig tunnels to reach where we are. My experience was tough. I was young, also in high school. I went to Kingston Tech. I was in my third year. So I came here not finishing high school. I had a weakness, and up to today, I have the weakness. And when I went, the government would give you a test. If you're going into trade or any area, my area was trade. I was weak in math. And let me see the hands up, those who are good in math, put them down. So I was very weak, and my, they did me something that I never forget. They sent me back to a school called Jesse Ketchup. That school is on Bay Street. I never forget. And I thought it was an embarrassment to me. But when I went there, I found doctors, surgeons, I found teachers, tradesmen, everybody doing that low grade math. And so we had to start from grade 6 with addition, right up, multiplication, right up. That's where they start us. Now, it's either you succeed or you fail. If you think it's too embarrassing, then you're not going to make it because you're not going to go any further. But if you have a dream, then whatever it is, you're going to make it because education was important to us. Now, when I came here and I did my first test, however, the government at that time, they wanted us to put us back all the time. They never want to put you forward. So they would put you in the lowest of grades, right? And so they, when I came here, my first test in mechanic, I failed, they said, by 2%. They sent me to school for 3 years. I failed by 1%. I went back again. They said, you got to go back. The third time I passed. Now, I couldn't understand because I almost go crazy. There's a gentleman at Perth Avenue by the name of, he died now. He took me in a room one Sabbath. I said, I'm confused. I don't know what to do on these tests. He said, don't worry. Anyway, the third time I passed, when I went to the Ministry of Labor to get my certificate, I saw a gentleman in a wheelchair, a white gentleman, very nice gentleman. And he called my name and he looked around. He was in a certain area. He looked around. He said, you are Winston Rolla. He said, yes. He said, my son, from the first day you came here and took your test, you have been passing, and they never gave it to you. And I had to go back to school to do things that I have been passing. That's why I was so discouraged. But one thing I would like to say to anyone who come to this country, as I saw one guy at the Ministry of Labor once, he said to me, Winston, fight until you see no one before you. That means you're a winner. And that's what you got to do. I was living at Christie Street. And I took one bus from Christie to Bathurst, from Bathurst and St. Clair to Bathurst subway. Every morning, I had to get up because they sent me back to do these things. I have to work in the days. By the way, night school in those days were the best thing because we had to work in the day and pay our rent, like Shimona said. And then we have to go to school by night. So that's what we had to do. I had to leave from Christie to St. Clair on a bus, take a bus from St. Clair to Bathurst subway, right? And from Bathurst subway to Islington. From Islington to Dixie and Dundas in Mississauga. And you got to be there 7:30 every morning. If you're 1 minute late, they deduct 15 minutes. And if you're half an hour, they double it. In order to go to school in the night, I'd have to take the same direction and come back here on Eglinton and Warden to Centennial College. Centennial College. That's how it goes. I remember one morning, so sleep was just about 4 hours. Because in the night, school let out at 10. I have to grab a bus back, the last bus I would catch every night. So I would reach home like 1 a.m. in the morning and get a little sleep. Then I would cook a little bit and catch the bus by 5. And you today haven't seen snow. Those were snow time. And by the way, when I came here, you know, I came here in a sun shoes, a brand new, my brother gave it to me. He came from Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. You could stay where you are and see how shiny it is. That's the shoes I had. I didn't have snow boot. They gave me a felt hat. No, I'm not a tall guy. Could you see me on a big felt hat? Huh? And I had a coat dropped from Noah's Ark. You know, I never forget that. You know, we never had many people like Pastor Anderson's house, his father and I, we were friends. That's where we would get little fun. That's why I get to know him and love him so much. I protect him everywhere I could. And Fred's house was the house that we would go and eat. His mother, today, tears fall when I remember, she would even send my supper because she knows I have to go to school. She would send and with the supper to church for me. She would look after me. We had, you know, little motherly and fatherly care where we could get little fun. We didn't have much fun, except we'd go to school and go home. Go to school, go to church, go home. Now and again, we would like find like Andy's house, Pastor Anderson, dad, or we would be at Fred's house, we would practicing. We had, by the way, the first quartet that was formed in this country was by 4 fellows called the Ambassadors Quartet. I just throw this in. And that was started at Fred's house and Brother Records. And by Owen, myself, Record, and David. By the way, I must let you know where I said is David died and he will be buried this week coming. But back to this story, life was difficult. Most of us, you know, there's nothing wrong living in a basement. I mean, I lived in a basement, but that was the big thing in those days. That's what we had, you know, and work was, we couldn't get, it was difficult to find job. Now in Shimona's time was a little bit different. In my time, we didn't have any job, okay? And we didn't have like agency where you go and you could stay home and call, but no, we would pick up our job from the paper. So that means we used to walk, we had to walk and knock on doors, and they were so wicked to us that some of them who have nothing to do would say, they're hiring down there, and they're hiring, and you keep going all day. I remember one day I was walking and knocking on doors. I was so frozen that I rushed into a store. I thought you could just walk into a store and get little shelter. I wasn't buying anything. And the guy saw me, he said, "What you doing in here?" I said, I couldn't answer him because my lip, he said, "Get," and I had us to run. He ran me out. He armed with a stick. I had us to run in the snow. Brrr. It was tough. It was rough. It was amazing. I mean, you know, my struggles was perhaps worse than anybody's struggles. And we didn't have much outlet until we went through school. By the way, I went to Centennial. I graduated from there and then worked for a while. I worked. Shimon talked about the church. The way I was found, I couldn't find any church, but I was found by a man by the name Brother Nisbet, who was doing harvesting gathering, and he found me. Now that's after being at Toronto West. Toronto West was the first church. No, Shaw Street. I went to Toronto West, I think the first day they moved to Toronto West from Short Street. And so the man who found me, while I couldn't find any church, was the man who came back after they found out I could do music and sing. I sang one day and he said, you got to go back to school. And he was one of them who encouraged me to go back to school. I worked for a while and then I went back to school, fight my way through night school, upgrading to grade 12. I did my vocational study and now to Oakwood, to Andrews, and today I stand as a pastor, still active, though retired, and with a doctorate. So the thing is, what I want to encourage our young people or anybody who listen, when you come to this country, start where you can. And it doesn't matter what happened. Don't lose your vision and your dream. God has a plan for you before you were born, and allow him to work that plan throughout. If you stay in the boat, you will reach your destination. Now, let me say this. Before I went back to college, I thought of going into my own business. So the government was giving money to small business. I went downtown. When I went in there, the gentleman said, money is gone. He said, the only thing I can do for you up north, they're cutting lumber up there. And that's a good job, he said. You know, with your strength and you're young, you'll do well up north cutting lumber. Oh, yeah. I said, thank you. But I think I don't mind cutting lumber, but I think I can do a little bit more in addition to that. So why? Because I used to cut lumber. Now I'm trying to do something else. Bye-bye. So they would send you. Opportunity was very rare for us. We couldn't start anything on our own because we have no seed money. We have no foundation and we have nobody to help us. And we did not, the Black community did not help each other. And it is a disease among us. And I don't know, it stopped with me. Today, if I see somebody who is trying, whatever I can do, even with a good word, I have to do it because of the past. I will never repeat those things. Those are some of my stories that I have.
What about the guy who went? Okay, thank you, Pastor Hulak, for sharing.
Yes.
Again, are there any questions from the chat?
I am looking here at the chat online. I don't have any questions here, but you know, again, when linked with Shimona's stories, some of these, I mean, Pastor Herlock, anybody that knows you knows that you have a great sense of humor, and you could make a hurricane seem like it was a light shower. You know, that's the reality. It's a gift that you have.
Thank you.
I think that you've been blessed with the type of mind that allows you to see things not for as terrible as they can be, but for as good as you can make them in terms of taking lemons and turning it into a lemon juice. I suspect that you might even put, you know, some extra bitters in there or something just to jazz it up, right? You know, the reality is, Pastor Herlock, and I've known you a very long time, my entire life. You've known me longer than I've known you. And one of the things that I could truly say is that no matter what comes your way, you face it and you beat it. So God bless you. I'll ask some more questions after Elder Udine has gone around the panel. You know, the pastors, we don't get the questions, we get the closing prayer. So I'll turn it back over to Elder Udine.
Yes, thanks, Pastor Hulak. And one of the things, as a matter of fact, one of the questions I had to ask, but in a sense, you have already answered the question, but I'm going to still ask the question. As we know, the society in which we live, it's a racist society.
Yeah.
Very blunt about it. And one of the challenges that immigrants face, or let me be more specific, that Black immigrants face, is the issue or the challenge of systemic racism. And it was quite interesting to hear your story when you went to school and the grades, and quite notably that you failed by 2 marks.
Yeah.
Or even 1 mark. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of a story, of an incident with me. At that time, I was going to York University. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember what subject I was doing, but I put everything into it. And I submitted the paper. When I got it back, I got a C+. Mm. There was no comments. Just more than this paper is just worth a C+. And I was really upset. So I said to him, I am willing to go back and do the paper again. Just tell me what I missed. Mm-hmm. So he shooted some things off his mouth. I went back, I did the paper, submitted it to him, and that professor gave me a B. Mm-hmm. So from a C+ to a B. Mm-hmm. So in his mind, he predetermined that I wasn't worth anything higher than a B. That's right. So regardless of what I did, how good the paper was, because I shared the paper with others, read this paper for me, no comment. And so this is just one incident of systemic racism. And it exists at all levels of society. And this is one of the challenges that our immigrants face. And if I may speak to our youth who are in the educational system, this is one of the challenges that they face. And even I can speak to when my daughter was in school. Again, it was the same, similar situations where they try to stream your child into vocational rather than academics. So this is something for the parents. And so the question coming back after all of that, the question of that, but you have already answered in part, but is there anything else you would like to add? What was some of the systemic obstacles or challenges that you faced?
Okay, first of all, you would not be advanced or be promoted if you, what I had to do in the area of mechanic, because I'm a licensed mechanic, I had to always just drain oil. It hurts me. I have a brain. I'm a bright guy. I came with experience. I was very good. And to see me sit, open a bung, we call it, and just watch oil drain out, just change oil and filter was menial to me in my time. As a matter of fact, the boss said, don't you worry, try to, because I had us to go back to school by night. He said, don't worry, you won't make it, period. That was the worst thing he told me. Because you know what? Because I used to study every 12 o'clock and I would eat my lunch and study. He came out one day and said, put away that book. You're getting enough here. You don't need to study. I said, forget you. And what I did, I went and I passed. I worked a little and I went to Oakwood. And when I came back from Oakwood College, I bought my first car, a black Tempest. I had a bag. Nothing was in the bag. But I put it, I dressed in my suit and with my bag empty. And I walked inside that same dealer. I didn't find him. He was gone. But it took many years. But I went back to show him that you can't keep a good man down. Nothing was in the bag. But I walked in there with my black suit
And you're attached.
And me attach. So, yes, they will tell you, and if you believe them, they inculcate certain ideas in your mind, and they hypnotize you. But you're getting good here. You know, you don't have to do that. You can't pass anyway. And those are opportunities, and they will tell you things. And if you are not careful, you believe.
Yeah.
Believe that you are dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And that was the wrong thing that he said. As a matter of fact, it was wrong, but it was good for me. It showed, because I have a passion to succeed. And if you tell me I can't do something which is humanly possible, that's the wrong thing, because once it's possible, and within my limitation, I will do it. I will do it.
Elder Eugene, I've got a
I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I recall you saying that you wanted to leave as soon as you got here. So my question is, what made you stay? Or why didn't you go back?
No, well, I
Did
wanted.
I get that wrong?
Yeah, a little bit. I wanted to come here, but I stay because Canada is a wonderful country. I am so happy that I'm here. It makes me, it helps, rather than God, it helps me and the help of other people. But my passion for things like education, I was able to accomplish it here. So I'm happy for Canada. So I don't know if I said I want to leave. Maybe I misspoke.
Maybe I misunderstood. Or yeah.
Okay.
But I wanted to comment on something you said about the job that was offered to you to cut lumber.
Yes.
And it reminds me of a similar story I had when I came here. And I applied to Bell, Canada, for a job. And so they called me back later that day and said, well, we have a job for you as a mail person, which meant that I had to push a cart from floor to floor delivering mail. So I said to the lady, I'm sorry, but that's not exactly what I was thinking of. Because I thought, I left a good job in Trinidad. I'm not going to come here and push a mail cart from floor to floor. That was my mentality. But it's interesting that a few hours later, she called me back with a different job as a receptionist. So I say this to say that sometimes it's not just good to settle for just anything, but rather don't be afraid to demand or ask what you think you deserve.
Sure. Thank you.
I'd like to maybe ask this question. Pastor Herlock, it sounds like you've been to school many different times, many different places.
Yes.
And of course, you've name dropped, different individuals. Aside from you being a pastor, can you also, because you didn't come here as a pastor, can you maybe tell us a little bit about what the support of the church has meant to your life then and maybe even now, aside from employment, what that looked like for you?
The church, I give 100% credit. Members in the church, we must understand that when I came here, we were not welcome, really, not even in the church. Not even in the church. We had it hard in the church as Black people. We were not appreciated by the whites then. Maybe they died. Might be a little different now. Even if you said you want to go to Oakwood in my time, they would they would look at you differently. But the church on a whole, for me, the members in the church supported me 100% even today. They helped me They encourage me in every possible way where education is concerned. They supported me in other ways. I couldn't blame the church. The church has done its role on my part. I have to give 100%. Perth then was my church, and Perth did everything to get me off while I was there in college, because it was tough. When I came back, they did everything. I couldn't ask any more from the church. The church was very good. Yeah. The problem that I had is going back and forth. When you go to the United States and you come back every quarter, you have to show how you're going to pay for the next quarter. There's a thing called I-20. And in those days at the border, they were very prejudiced against us going to school. And so it was rather difficult. I remember I would like to come back home, but because I don't have the money to show to go back, I had to stay. But once I found a nice little way to do it, I would leave one set of clothes over there and have a little bit here. So I split up the garments, you know. And once I came back and I couldn't go back, I came to Canada, and one thing to go back, I didn't have any money to go back. So I asked Brother Record to take me back. So at that time, brethren, I committed a sin, but I pretended I was going to church. So we put the Bible on the dashboard, and we memorized some of the questions, the possible questions that would be asked. Where are you going? Where you know? So Brother Record knew exactly the church. I don't have a clue. But when so Brother Record, as you know, everybody know Brother Record is very upbeat. When he reached to the bottom, man, his feet got cold. And then he was driving an old car. It was a clutch car. His feet fell out, his foot fell out the clutch. I have to laugh. And so the examiner's ass came up, jump out the little hut, you know, that little hut. He said, where you think you're going? I said, we're going to church. He said, pull over there. So he pulled us over. When I look across on Brother Record's mouth, it was white as snow. He couldn't talk. They pull us and spit us up and take us into a little room. You know where I was heading, brethren? I was heading to Oakwood College. And he questioned us. He asked us, well, how many do you have? How much money you have and all that? And then he said, where are you going? Brother Record said, we're going to church. The gentleman said, which church? He said, the Seventh-day Adventist Church. The man said, you're a liar. There's no church. It's named Seventh-day Adventist Church. And then he said, Brother Record said, haven't you heard about the Seventh-day Adventist Church? We preach the health message, and we preach the second coming of Christ. The man started to laugh. He said, oh, okay, go ahead, you know. So we were able to get across. I jump across, we say prayer a little bit, and boom, Oakwood College. There I go. So it was very, very difficult. As a matter of fact, they used to hold me each time I go. There was a guy named Sammy at the border, and he used to put me up and feed me for a week, he and his wife. And, you know, it was a real struggle, real struggle. As I said, whatever you want, let no man tell you can't get it, as long as it's within your reach and it's legal and it's something that you're heading for, you can make it through the grace of God. Go ahead.
Okay, any other questions?
I got one more.
Okay.
And I don't know if Shimona or Pastor Herlock, feel free either to maybe field this question. It would seem as though there's two themes. I mean, the two of you don't know each other, right? You're in two different generations.
That's right.
But there's two things that seem to really stand out in both of your stories. More, but the two that I'd like to focus on. Number one, education. And then number two, the church. Maybe if you don't mind, I'll slip a third one in, the lack of information. Right? And I think that this is the struggle. What you don't know, you cannot find or ask for. So maybe I'd like to say, because I don't think that a lot has changed. When I was in school and there were different immigrants that were there, the same is true. We don't know where to find resources. Maybe either of you would like to help by saying to, those that are watching and those that will watch, if you could have done this thing a little bit differently, knowing what you know now, what would that look like instead? How would you have gone through this process of coming to this country differently?
As for me, and Shimon, maybe you could answer, but as for me, I was afraid to ask questions. You just feel like you're ignorant. And so for me, I would have asked a little bit more questions. I would perhaps talk to somebody about my struggles. Those things were private, and I would hold them tight. I never want to express my struggles, my suffering. I didn't want to ask too many questions. And so that's what I would have done much differently. Maybe I would have talked to somebody, maybe a counselor or a confidant or a pastor or something. Tell them about my struggles. Tell them what I would like to accomplish and what I would like or whatever it is. I would ask more questions and probably open up to somebody, that can help me. That I did not do. And I would suggest that anyone who comes to this country or in this country and not getting ahead, find somebody who you can talk with. Ask questions. Let them know your desire, your aspiration, what you'd like to accomplish. How would you like to grow to your full potential? And seek help. I have to commend Pastor Anderson. Pastor Anderson knew me from a way back, and he saw something in me. And I should have said it to him, but he said it to me. He said, "Now you come to my office. I am going to do this, and you're going to start. And look where I reached. In the next 3 weeks, you will see me online with my own ministry." You see, so we can reach perhaps further if we were to open up with people who can help you, not everybody, and ask questions and show them your struggles. Shimon, you want to go?
Yes, I do agree with you a lot based on what you said about talking with someone else, because I remembered when I came here, it was always heard that all you were hearing, like being a non-immigrant at the time, all you would hear is immigration. That's all they would talk to you about. And that would make you scared. Even if you wanted to do something, knowing that you doesn't have the status to do that thing, it would like prevent you, and you would hide your situation. You would hide your stories. You would hide your difficulties. You didn't want anyone to know what you were dealing with. Right. You didn't want anyone to know what you wanted to be. I came here at a very young age. At 17, I could have gone to school. That was the age for me to still be in school. Like, I could have gotten a Canadian high school education, but I didn't. And that's because, the information wasn't shared, like nothing was shared. I mean, I wasn't really too interested of going back to school at that time. Like I said, I was so happy to be out of high school. But at that time, it was for me to go back to school. And it was a time in my life where I was pretty young. instead of sending me to work, I should have gone back to school to get an education, and I would have been much further along in my life than where I am today. Thank God that I got to this point now, but back then, if things had gone in a different direction, it would have been so much better. So a lot of times, we shouldn't always depend on family, friends. It's always good to have someone out there to have your back, someone who's going to encourage you and motivate you and push you forward and encourage you and show you the way that you want to go. And that is one thing that I did not do at the point when I just came here and during my struggles. If I had had that someone there, my life would have been a total different. I would have had a total different outcome.
Yeah.
There's two other things that also popped out in this conversation, and I'm also reading some of the comments. They're not necessarily questions online, but I do want to throw out a couple of terms here just for the sake of the conversation. Microaggression is one of them. And these are words that we are now beginning to hear in the area of sociology and so on and so forth. But the idea that the language of those that dominate the system, the words often of counselors, even in the school system, if they say to you, I don't think you're suited for university, maybe you can just go and pick up a trade, microaggression. But then also there's another term that comes out of this conversation, some of the struggles that we have within our own community. We call that lateral violence. A friend of mine shared that term with me several months ago, and I remember it very clearly now. The idea that at times you think that because you see someone that has your complexion, your dialect, maybe they come from your island or otherwise, right? Because it's not just Caribbean people that have come to Canada. At times where you think you will find a friend, you find a foe. And that can be tough for an immigrant, especially when you are navigating a culture where you don't know. You don't know people from Europe per se, so you don't understand the rules of engagement. You don't understand that perhaps sometimes you have to say a little bit less instead of a little bit more because the rules of engagement are different. And it's interesting because now, even in Canada, and somebody said it in the group, so I'm not speaking on behalf of myself, but I think it's Marcia that's watching. She says that there are some areas where you find no people of color, zero, all because some of the industry that we have here in Canada, in North America, in Toronto specifically, which is where this conversation comes from, we have not been able to have access there because there is somebody marking a test, right, Pastor Herlock?
That's right.
Marking a test who says to themselves, I'm not going to allow this Black man access to that industry. I may prefer to leave it for somebody from my own country or somebody else. Maybe he just doesn't like your dialect, doesn't like the way that you look, it doesn't matter, but you had been passing all of those tests. And so by the time you have to study again, losing sleep again, this is part of the Canadian experience. And I'm glad to have heard your story because Pastor Herlock, you've been here a lot longer than Shimona, and yet there's a parallel in your experience and her experience.
Not much has changed.
And so therefore, it's good that we're having this open and transparent conversation here through the Shiloh Seventh-day Adventist Church, because there's a lot more work that has to be done to the system. And I know that this is where Elder Udine is going to land the plane. I see your hand, Pastor Herlock, and then I guess Elder Udine, you'll come back in again. But this systemic racism, it's hard to navigate. There's no face, there's no last name, there's no eye color to it. It's a system. And nobody really knows how to navigate it except for if you are given the benefit some way and somehow of getting through it. So Pastor Herlock.
Yes, Pastor. The only reason why I discovered that the gentleman is in the wheelchair. He is a Canadian, but he owns a business in Jamaica. In the area where I'm from, He said, do you know the block factory in Wood Park? I said, yeah. He said, we own that. My family owned that. And he said, you know, I'm sorry for you because I saw your name. And each time you took your test from the day you came here, you have been passing each time. Who would have known that? My message to young people today, if I was a person who was easily discouraged and didn't understand who I am and my goals and where I want to go in life, I would have given up. And a lot of our young people have given up because of one incident. Push on. Today, when you go to our graduation, you're not seeing as many of us as ought to be. Why? Why? You can't be discouraged. You got to show up and fight. And what the guy said to me, he said, fight, Winston, until you see no one before. That means you have won. That's what we got to do.
You know, Elder Udine, sorry, one last quick thing there. As we're talking about this testing thing, and I was listening to Elder Udine talking about her experience at York University. I remember I ran into that too when I was a young university student before I became a pastor. There was another Black young lady in the class with me, and she was doing well. You know, she was a bright student, and so was I. And she would get an A, and I would get a C plus every single time. So one day, I said to her, look, I'm not asking you to do my work, but I just want to see something. Can you do this assignment for me and put it in, and let's see the grade that I get? Do you know? It was still a C plus.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
So, I mean, these experiences are not just college. You know, sometimes we have a way of making college not really education. It's still education because you still have teachers and professors there. And we often think that, you know, in the university setting, because it's a much more posh setting, that somehow people have been delivered from some of their racial ideologies. And we're not saying that all professors are that way, right? So let me also say this, because I know that this will be archived.
True. That is true.
We're not talking about all, but even if it's happening one place or another place, it's still too much. And I think part of the reason why I'm appreciating your stories as you've told them is that it also allows us to see the inequalities that exist behind the blinds.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's
and
right.
This is also important for parents, right? Because here's the other thing. At times, parents have really been hard on immigrant children, assuming that they've gone to school and they've been clowning around in school and always taking the teacher's perspective as if it's law.
Yeah, correct.
But now that we've lived long enough, right? I'm Jamaican parents, but I'm Canadian, so I don't have an accent. And yet, some of the experiences that we have experienced there, we recognize that at times parents may have been harsh, assuming that teachers had their children's best interest at heart. And a lot of young people, people of color, are walking around the city damaged because they didn't get an A, and there was an assumption that they were wasting their parents' money and time and so on and so forth. But now we understand there are people who are marking these tests at times and not giving the fair grade to some of the bright students because that would allow them access into some of the industry. I've talked a lot on the edge because you've pushed some of my buttons here, Pastor Herlock, listening to some of your story. Elder Udine, please go ahead.
Sorry, can I just share something from the stream?
Yeah.
Sister Andrea just posted here, just something quick. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sister Andrea says, I was in grade 6 and asked the teacher what path to take to get to university. And he said, why bother? You are just going to get pregnant and drop out of school anyway.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And you know, these are some of the harsh realities that our kids face at school. And It's real. And sometimes it is difficult. And that's why I've always said, as parents, we have to be close to our schools, to our children in the schools. We have to be like watchdogs as such in terms of making sure and looking at every action that's been taken, every step that's been taken to ensure that your child is not put, or your children are not pushed aside. And I can tell you reams and reams of stories. And sometimes it's like a fight. But one of the things I have learned, which have really helped me, one of the first things after I realized what was happening, I felt it necessary to align myself with the school, to let them know who I am, and to be an active part of the school. It does not remove some of the inherent racism, but at least they know who you are and what you stand for. And oftentimes they think twice before they act or even attempt to suggest something. Because, and not just another quick one. My child, when she was going to school, we lived in Scarborough. She was going to school in North York, and that was because of daycare. And secondly, because of the school, because she went to a French immersion school. And where the school is located, apparently nearby, somewhere around, there is or was an Ontario housing project. So this teacher, not knowing anything about me, my background, assumed that my child lived across the street in the Ontario housing project. And I don't know what went on there, but it seemed that there were parties and other things. And one day, one of the comments that she made to me was that, oh, my child is always tired and probably sitting up at nights listening to music and blah, blah, blah. And this is just to show you or to share with you. So I had to be there right instantly to correct her. But this is just to show you some of the things that happen within the school. And I can tell you reams of stories. But as we wrap up, and in terms of landing the plane as such, and I know in part it has, we have talked about it, but I just want to ask, is there one thing, how can you use your story to encourage or motivate someone coming to Canada or someone who is struggling in Canada, let us say, with respect to different areas, let us take for education or anything? What one advice that we may not have mentioned here, how would you use your story to motivate or to encourage that person? And this question is both to Shimona and Pastor Hula. So Shimona, you want to go?
Yes, I think I've pretty much answered that question before in when I said to seek opportunities and to grasp every opportunity, because what I came to realize over the years is that no job in Canada is to get any job that you want to get in Canada, they will be asking for something. It's always the high school. Do you have a high school diploma? It's always pertinent. So when you come to Canada, do something, go back to school, do some upgrading, something to start you off, because once you have something, whether it's a GED, it's acceptable, and that's going to move mountains for you. Without nothing, you have nothing. You must have something. So as you come to Canada, don't sit down, don't fold your hand. If you don't have status, don't say, oh, well, I can't go to school. You can go to school, because there are so many programs that's being offered here in Canada. all we need to do is do our research, ask questions, go on the internet. The internet is there. There's so much information on the internet. Search the internet. There's so many different programs doing math, doing English. There's people who are not, they don't have the capacity, the abilities to maybe read, write. They have programs for all of that. So do your research, talk to people. There's nothing to hold you back in this country. Canada has a lot of opportunities. It's just for you to seek them out, speak to the right people, and you'll be on your way. But that's one advice that I would like to give to anyone coming to this country.
Okay.
All right. Where I'm concerned, there are many things, but I'll just mention one or two. And the first thing is, do not accept government handout when you first come to this country, if you can get it. Now, if you have to start out and where you can start, if that's what you can start with, some aid or something, never settle for that though. It will put a tailspin on you and you can't get out of it. All right. First of all, secondly, you should sit down and see what you really want to accomplish in life. Have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. You have a brain. God give you a mind. If you don't know what you want or whatever, see somebody. Align yourself with a church. Align yourself with a church. When people converge together, all different type of people come to church. Church is one of the places where you've seen so many different people. All right, align yourself. So first of all, do not accept government funds. If you cannot do that, don't accept it. It will put you back. And secondly, have a plan. And then not only have the plan, but how you're going to execute that plan. What is going to take you to reach where you want to go? Do you need information? That's where some of it you'll go to the church. You'll find different people who have little heart can help you. All right. Even government have social workers and all those things. They have people who will know it's a little different. Thank God for our prime minister a couple of days ago. He came out and he openly defy the response to the Black community, especially since we are dealing with that. I'm talking, we are dealing with our Caribbean folks. The disparity, it's here. So, but now it's a little bit different. All right. But if you know what you want when you go for counsel, you can choose from what they say to you. Now, that guy told me, hey, listen, you can make big money cutting lumber up north. We'll help you. We'll take you there. I said, yeah, very nice. But that's not where I want to go. I've been cutting lumber all the while. I'm going to cut something else. You see what I'm saying? So you got to know exactly. If you don't know what you want, then you'll be steered into all different type of things where you all different directions. So know exactly what you want, and then you will find ways. God will help you to find ways to accomplish. But don't accept free money. That will knock you out.
Okay. All right. We have come to the end of our session this evening. And I don't know for you, but I felt that this was really a lively and engaging session. And a lot has come out of this. It's unfortunate that we have to end at this time, but this is just the beginning. And it tells you that these are the type of things that we need to promote and have for our young people to help them and assist them. And so I just want to take this time to thank everyone who participated in this evening's program. The panelists, Shimona and Pastor Herlock, thank you very much for coming out for being open or transparent and sharing your stories. I also want to thank the panelists for their questions and their comments, and in terms of the active engagement. And I also want to thank our audience for their comments that they have made. And as I've said, certainly this is important, and topics like these are important. And as we go on, these are things that we need to look at. And one of the bigger questions may be, where do we go from here? And I know we have one more session scheduled for next week, but we hope after next week that will not be the end, because we certainly need to continue this dialogue. And so on this note, I just want to thank everyone again. And at this time, I'll ask Gemma to do the closing prayer.
Okay, everyone, let's pray. Our loving Father in heaven, we thank you for your love, goodness, and mercy towards us. We thank you for the countless blessings of the past and throughout the past week. You have watched over us and protected us from harm, dangers, death, and for this we are so grateful. Lord, thank you for your Sabbath day where we can refocus our minds from the cares of life and concentrate on you and only you. May we always feel your divine presence around us. Lord, as we continue to celebrate Black History Month, help us to remember the legacy of those who paved the way before us. And Lord, show us how to also pave the way for those who will follow us. We want to thank you for Pastor Herlock and Shimona, who were willing to share their stories of challenges and resilience, successes and hopes for the future. We pray that their experiences will serve to encourage someone who may be having challenges as they try to settle to a new way of life in a new place or a new country. We also pray for the panel, those on the panel and our listeners, that we will be willing to share our stories not only during Black History Month, but continually through the year. Help us, Lord, to also share with others the love of Jesus and how he died for us, and that he's coming back to save us if we accept him as our Lord and Savior. And now as we conclude this evening's program, I ask that you continue to guide and protect us and our families. We do not know what the coming week holds, but because we know you are in charge, we are confident that all will be well. Help us to see you always as the source of our strength, and therefore never fear. So again, Lord, watch over us, keep us safe until we meet next week for a final session. And if we have misrepresented you in any way, Lord, we ask your forgiveness. These mercies we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Okay. Can the panel just stay back a bit, please?
All right, just give me a moment as
I have a book that I will be writing. I'm thinking of writing my bio. It would be really interesting. I hope